tension in Taiwan to a spy scandal involving a retired military officer who's accused of helping China plan attacks on selected targets. Protesters accuse Taiwan's main opposition party of trying to downplay its authoritarian past. Southern California reels as Los Angeles County grapples with its worst ever wildfires. Plus, we see what practical innovations some of Taiwan's smaller tech firms are bringing to the table at CES Las Vegas. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Leslie Liao. A former military officer and leader of a small political party has been charged with spying for China. As Chelsea Wu reports, the specific allegations are raising concerns among many in Taiwan.
A retired military officer, singing the patriotic song of Taiwan's military academy. But this veteran, Chu Hongyi, has been indicted along with 6 others. The charges they face: colluding with members of China's military to plan attacks inside Taiwan, potentially including the unofficial U.S. embassy. It's one of several cases of active and retired military personnel in Taiwan being accused of espionage for China.
这个部门的理解是我们没有现役军人涉案，但是就国防部立场我们还是要对这些被吸收的退役军人要予以严厉的谴责，即使是被役的这些军人或者是退役之后呢，还是要对国家负有忠诚的义务。
Chu is accused of receiving more than $91,000 to gather intelligence and recruit others to carry out attacks on Taiwan's military and political leaders in conjunction with the Chinese invasion. Chu and others allegedly gathered photos and other intelligence on military bases in southern Taiwan's Pingdong County, Alishan in the country center, and even the unofficial U.S. embassy in Taipei, known as the American Institute in Taiwan, or AIT. Chu may not be the first military veteran to be accused of spying for China, but the alleged planning of armed attacks, not only against Taiwanese targets, but potentially even American ones, is just one of the factors that makes this particular case so unique. Chu's case is also unique because of his political activities. He established a small political party in 2023. The Interior Ministry says it may now be dissolved under a law banning parties that pose national security threats. While no member of Chu's party has ever held office, his background in both the military and politics has lawmakers on both sides of the aisle concerned.
中共持续对我退役军人里面来渗透，本席非常的谴责，且这种动作对两岸的和平是不利的。
中国渗透一定会有中间人，除了退役的将领，还会有谁呢？最重要的就是我们的立法委员，可以见到中国的官员，又可以接触国家的机密，又可以接触到一般的人民，做选民服务嘛。所以对中国来讲，立法委员是完美的中间人。
Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council has said if the allegations are true, the veterans involved will lose their pensions. With an increasing number of espionage cases involving Taiwan's veterans, there is growing unease that some individuals who once dedicated their careers to defending the nation might now pose a threat to its security. Lian Wang, Chris Gorin, and Chelsea Wu for TaiwanPlus.
Lawmakers are reviewing bills on the preservation of historical sites. The issue has sparked debate across political parties and activist groups, with some accusing the main opposition Kuomintang of trying to get rid of its own dark mark on Taiwan's history. Joyce Sung reports.
In the spotlight at the legislature is how to preserve Taiwan's historical sites of injustice like this one from the White Terror era, an almost 4-decade-long period of brutal martial law which saw tens of thousands of people imprisoned and killed under Kuomintang rule. This Taipei post office was where military police and civilians clashed on February 28, 1947, one of the events that triggered the authoritarian crackdown. The Kuomintang today is the main opposition party, and at the legislature, lawmakers from across the political spectrum are reviewing various proposals on what preserving sites like this looks like. A group of human rights activists are taking issue with one particular proposal from two Kuomintang lawmakers to expand the definition of sites of injustice beyond the White Terror period to include those from the Qing dynasty and the Japanese colonial era. They say this downplays the harm caused by the then Kuomintang regime.
这会发生什么情况呢？会发生未来我们的民众根本搞不清楚什么叫做这个不义遗址，根本搞不清楚什么叫威权的统治，更不清楚说威权统治跟民主转型有什么样的关联性。
Those calling for the changes say they're necessary to acknowledge all injustices committed on this land.
中华民国之前，台湾的原住民族在这块土地上所受到任何一个统治者的侵害。 这不是不义遗址吗？
At the heart of this debate is transitional justice, the effort to recognize historical truths and compensate for atrocities committed before Taiwan's shift to democracy. While the Kuomintang says all oppressions should be included in Taiwan's dark history, some activists are concerned that the Kuomintang is attempting to evade responsibility and its role in the country's hard-won democracy. Devin Tai and Joyce Sun in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Wildfires in Southern California are being called the worst in Los Angeles' history. At least 5 people are dead and over 1,000 buildings destroyed as firefighters struggle to contain the flames. John Van Trieste reports.
Curtis inspects the charred remains of the trailer park in Pacific Palisades, California, that until Tuesday had been home. The destruction is total. All that's left is an eerie hush as the dry winds that drove the wildfire through this neighborhood blow through the rubble.
How much would you say that you've lost?
Everything. I got my car, whatever's in my car. So, don't know.
But there's little time for reflection here in the Los Angeles suburbs. Multiple blazes are racing through the area, with firefighters saying they are 0% contained. Already, over 1,000 buildings have burned. The consensus among longtime residents seems to be that these are the worst fires anyone can remember. In another part of Pacific Palisades, Sana Chong is hurriedly hosing down the bamboo hedge outside his home.
I know this looks pretty stupid, but if I can save one ember from burning down my house, I'll take the risk.
He's fed up with what he sees as inaction over the threat of wildfires and reports of problems with water supplies as firefighters try to rein them in.
We need our governments to be more proactive about these wildfires. They're happening every single several times a year. There must be some things we can do to try to mitigate this. Please. Fire hydrants are empty. Firefighters are doing everything they can, but we need to do things more proactively before.
Now, in the final days of his presidency, Joe Biden has promised help is on the way, pledging to do, quote, anything and everything as long as it takes to tame these fires and help reconstruct. But the scale of the disaster means this won't be easy, and the aftermath will largely fall to the next administration. For now, over 100,000 evacuees wait for news of their losses. In the city of Pasadena, the convention center's been turned into a makeshift shelter, with volunteers handing out Red Cross blankets, food, and other essentials. Just over a week ago, this city welcomed the new year with the celebratory Rose Bowl American Football Championship. Now, with the so-called Eaton fire raging just kilometers away, the mood here has turned bleak.
What was interesting for me was the realization as I was choosing things, the things that I didn't choose. And it wasn't, sometimes you'd look at something, you go, you know what, I've had that for almost all my life, but you know what, I can let that go. I can let it go, I can let it go. And then I took photographs and things that meant something, a little figurine that my daddy bought for me when I was 5, or those kinds of things.
Backup is on the way, with fire crews headed to the scene from as far away as the neighboring state of Arizona. But while weakening winds have Pasadena's fire chief hopeful of progress in the coming days, crews have a brutal fight on their hands. James Lin and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
The man suspected of assassinating a former Cambodian opposition lawmaker in Thailand has been arrested after a day-long search. Lim Kim Ya, a former member of the outlawed Cambodian National Rescue Party, was killed by a gunman in Bangkok on Tuesday after crossing into Thailand with family earlier that day. Police in Cambodia arrested the suspect after Thai authorities found he had crossed the border. Human rights activists are calling on Thai authorities to investigate the murder.
What has happened in the last 24 hours really sends a chill down the spine for any Cambodian political activists, that Bangkok is not a safe place. And so I think the Thai government really needs to ensure that there is a thorough, independent investigation to really get to the bottom of who ordered this killing and to prosecute the perpetrators responsible.
The shooting suspect has been identified by Thai authorities as a former Thai Marine who had been working as a taxi driver. The largest tech show in the world, the Consumer Electronics Show, is in full swing, following keynotes from major players like NVIDIA and AMD. And while many of these products rely on Taiwanese hardware giants like TSMC, smaller companies from Taiwan are also going to Las Vegas to show how practical AI can be. Chris Gorin has more.
What if you woke up in the morning and a mirror could tell you if you were having a heart attack? What if instead of going out and mowing the lawn, an army of robots could do it for you? What if you could use artificial intelligence to help you become a better athlete? Some innovators from Taiwan are looking to answer these questions with new product launches at the world's largest tech trade fair, the Consumer Electronics Show, or CES, in Las Vegas.
Taiwan may best be known for its chips that are fueling the AI explosion.
But some smaller companies and research groups here are also going to this year's CES to show how they're using AI technologies in practical ways that can be seen in everyday life. One of those exhibitors is FaceHeart, a medical AI company that is releasing its first major piece of hardware, a smart mirror. Using a hidden camera and proprietary AI software, a scan of your face can pick up several of your cardiac vital signs. It's one example of what the company says will be the expanding use of household devices for medical care.
This is actually pretty exciting because when people are thinking of hypertension, they are thinking of diabetes, they have to buy a lot of expensive medical devices. But what if it can be all done by your smartphones? It can all be done by your TV. Then people can reduce the cost to reach health services, and they can have better control of their chronic disease.
Operation is simple. Enter some personal information and stand still for 45 seconds. All right, doc, give it to me straight. How long have I got to live? Aside from vital signs, FaceHeart says their mirror can detect potentially life-threatening conditions like atrial fibrillation, also known as AFib, and heart failure with over 90% accuracy. AI may be able to monitor your heart in your bathroom. But who's monitoring the lawn out in your yard? It could be these autonomous lawnmower robots from URS Robot. Using a combination of cameras, sensors, and AI software, the company says their new model, making its debut at CES, can be used to cut large areas of grass easily and safely.
This product is major designed for the commercial landscaping company. So like the commercial property, school, golf course, or some parks.
The system uses a digital marker to draw the cutting area, which can then be refined or changed on a smartphone app. Set your cut height, and up to 10 robots can be dispatched to dispatch your grass. The robot can detect objects in its path and avoid them. Or if smaller objects, such as rocks or hands, get underneath it, it can instantly stop the motor. So will these grass slicers put gardeners out of business?
We are here to help you have better life, easy job. You don't worry about they take the mowing job from you. You can do some other more valuable tasks, like you can trim the bushes, or you can make the flower bed. Boring things, you just let robotic mower to take care.
Now you've got your green, but what about your swing? Well, when it comes to badminton at least, Taiwan's Industrial Technology Research Institute, or ITRI, is working on that. It's debuting a new AI badminton trainer at CES. The device uses miniaturized cameras and a specially designed chip package to analyze players' movements, giving detailed data to those who need the extra edge.
I think there's a lot of use cases for this. There's just a lot of things that to the naked eye as a human, you can't really get exact details for. So for example, shuttle speed, right? We can kind of tell that we're hitting it hard or fast, but we'll never be able to know exactly that miles per hour that we're getting. I'm now able to know exactly which combination of strings and racket and tensions might perhaps generate, the fastest smash for me.
Professional athletes like Xu say it's only a matter of time before this kind of training tech comes to other sports as well. So whether it's your heart, your yard, or your game, Taiwan's innovators at CES are trying to show that their innovations are a cut above the rest. Luffy Lee and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up after the break.
Just a few kilometers off the coast of Kaohsiung in the Taiwan Strait, we're with Taiwan's Navy to see how they're training to defend against Chinese warships.
In the face of adversity, the power of truth.
A roadmap for a just and open world, charted by the freest country in Asia.
Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
TaiwanPlus News, a voice of freedom in Asia.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Taiwan's Navy is practicing how to defend the country's maritime border. It's wrapping up 3 days of exercises designed to keep the military alert before the Lunar New Year. Jaime Okan reports from southern Taiwan.
I'm here in Kaohsiung, which is home to Taiwan's largest naval base, for the final parts of military exercises ahead of the Lunar New Year. The Navy is letting us hop on aboard some of their ships to see how they're training to protect the country's maritime borders. Military personnel here are conducting a simulation of how they would respond to a suspicious vessel heading towards Taiwan in an attempt to breach the country's maritime border. What they're doing is dispatching teams of 2 corvettes armed with anti-ship missiles in less than 30 minutes to practice real combat maneuvers.
面对中共不间断的灰色地带袭扰，我们会持续强化平战结合的训练，我们会全力以赴捍卫海疆的安全。
Also on display are rare underwater operations, where divers practice recovering equipment and fixing critical infrastructure to keep their ships at sea as long as possible. Last year, Taiwan reported the highest number of Chinese Coast Guard and naval ships operating around the country as China conducted 3 large-scale military exercises. That's why in recent years, Taiwan has invested heavily into its domestic shipbuilding industry to ease reliance on the U.S., which is Taiwan's largest provider of weapons. All the ships taking part in this drill have been made in Taiwan, with the newest vessel, the Dawu, commissioned and put into service just 3 months ago.
我们也借由大武舰的性能展示，以及水下作业大队的演练，具体展现了国舰国造的成效，以及我海军水下作业的能量。
With a range of maritime threats around Taiwan, the Navy says that the most important thing is to cooperate with other branches of the military to get a complete picture of what's happening around the country. This will be even more pertinent when there's an uptick in travel ahead of the Lunar New Year, as many people go for their long holiday. Fu Hua Hong and Jaime Okan in Kaohsiung for TaiwanPlus.
Fast fashion brand Shein is under fire again after refusing to answer UK lawmakers' questions regarding alleged human rights abuses. The brand is one of several allegedly connected to forced labor in China's Xinjiang province. And the fashion industry in general is tainted with numerous allegations of human rights abuses and poor working conditions. To learn more about these issues, Alec McDonald spoke with Sean Xie, director of human rights organization, the Freshwater Institute.
Well, the use of forced labor allegations against fast fashion supplier Shein have gone to parliamentarians in the UK. There are other issues in the fashion supply chain. Can you talk a little bit about how these issues arise within Taiwan's fashion supply chain?
This problem with Shine has been, going on for quite a while. But yeah, it does highlight, the problems that also exist in Taiwan, which has a pretty extensive supply chain within the apparel industry. Recently, there were about 20 some odd global brands. So brands such as, Gap and North Face, Patagonia, that came to Taiwan to pressure the Taiwan government to do something about forced labor within Taiwan company supply chains in the apparel industry. And this had specifically to do with the treatment of migrant workers, in particular, asking migrant workers to bear the burden of paying brokerage fees for local brokers that were bringing them to Taiwan. And in general, the companies said, the best practice is for the companies to pay the brokerage fee and not to put the burden on workers.
Can you address and explain to the audience some of these issues and abuses that we see within the supply chain?
Yeah, what we see is, so examples, problems with, brokerage agent or labor agencies abusing their power. These workers, when they go to another country, they tend to work in a very confined environment. They may not speak the language. They don't have as much recourse to, for example, the local labor unions. Other kinds of problems occur especially with female migrant workers or female workers themselves who, encounter problems of sexual harassment, sexual abuse in the workplace. And, these are things that when I talk about migrant workers, I'm not just talking about those who come from other countries, but also those who come maybe from other parts of that country, from the countryside, to come work in the cities. Also problems with sanitation, the kind of sanitary environment, sanitary facilities provided to, workers as well is another issue, another big complaint that's made by workers in general.
From a consumer and a public policy perspective, what can be done to put an end to these abuses within the fashion industry?
Yeah, I think consumers can just be aware of the conditions under which, these clothes, whether it's fast fashion or other types of apparel are produced. And to be informed about these kinds of problems and to, maybe make also consumer choices about the kinds of companies that do a better job in terms of mitigating these kinds of problems, as opposed to other companies that have a poor reputation or poor record of that. Policy-wise, the EU they have a directive on forced labor and also a directive on the mandatory human rights due diligence, requiring large companies to do that kind of due diligence in their supply chains.
That was Sean Xie, director at the Freshwater Institute. In southern Taiwan, the saying, "one person's trash is another's treasure," is being taken to heart. Billy Wu has this story on how Yunlin County is turning incinerator ash into creative products.
These small plant pots and aroma stones that can brighten up any desk may look like ordinary knickknacks, but they are made from something extraordinary, recycled incinerator ash, giving refuse renewed life in southern Taiwan's Yunlin County.
特别就是把粉化再生粒料，然后就是增加那个去化管道，然后把它做成香氛石，让这部分也是说加大的，就是说推广的管道，让民众可以了解说粉化再生粒料有其他更多的用途。
The county of more than 600,000 people has long grappled with the garbage crisis, accumulating 150,000 tons of waste by 2024. Without its own incinerator, Yunlin has to send its trash to another county for incineration. The ashes are then returned to Yunlin for disposal. So, through a multi-step process and rigorous testing to make sure it's safe, the local government has found a way to transform incinerator ash into materials with a wide range of uses. Like these small creations, the officials are now sharing with residents, who see it as a win-win, helping the planet while creating a more positive work environment.
让它资源再利用，那拿到这些小物，包括说这个盆栽，可以它做有那个绿色植物的那个心情，其实是对大家在工作上以及在环境上更友善。
Beyond creating small everyday items, the recycled ash is also being integrated into public construction projects across the region. Since 2016, more than 300,000 tons of ash have been repurposed, achieving a 98% reuse rate.
目前为止呢，那我们这几年总计已经回运了大约是将近30万吨。那这些年我们透过这个不断的资源循环的一个推动呢，希望让民众能够了解到，其实这样子的废弃物呢是可以成为产品。
The county hopes these efforts will not only showcase the potential of sustainable waste management, but also inspire broader adoption of circular economy practices across Taiwan. From essential infrastructure to creative artful designs, Yunling aims to show how sustainability can be both practical and beautiful. Patrick Chen and Billy Wu for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching Taiwan Plus News. Finally, we take you to Egypt to explore newly unveiled archaeological discoveries, including 4,000-year-old artifacts dating back to the time of Queen Hatshepsut. I'm Leslie Liao. Take care and see you next time.